Hello, I am here with Francesca. She is focused on spirituality based healing for women. I'm so excited to hear what she's going to share today, talking about womb healing and really connecting deeper with ourselves. So, welcome, Francesca.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of how you got started on this journey.
Yeah. So I still see myself as quite new in like breaking out with all the spiritual healing that feels like it's being channeled through me from my ancestors. And I guess my focus, especially with today, is about womb healing. And I just think there's so much that I've discovered that we carry and hold in our womb, and even people who don't identify as females but still have the sacral area. There's so much that we hold there, and I think me looking back on my teenage years when I had really painful periods, it all makes sense now. And looking from where I am now and back then, I just have this passion to really talk about and help people to understand their bodies better so we can really discover what has been stored for centuries and centuries from our ancestral lineage in our womb and in our bodies that we can really look at and start to work on and let it move through us so we don't need to keep carrying it forward.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about that journey. I know so many women can resonate with that. Just the pain can feel so excruciating. I dealt with that in the past myself before I learned how to really work with my body, and I just thought that was normal, and it's not. And that can almost distort really accepting womanhood, because it's like there's just so much of it that's normalized that you just think that it's all associated with pain and misery. um, and then besides that, like when we don't know how to work with our bodies, and all the different hormonal changes we can go through feel awful as well, and so it just can feel like, why, so tell me a little bit about your experience and how that felt for you.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with feeling like it was supposed to be painful. I mean, all the adverts that you see on TV, online, just everywhere, there's so much stigma around periods. Like it's something we need to
Mhm.
hide, something that we should be shameful of having. There's
Mm.
even been some controversial men online who say it's strange that we have periods, or yeah. So looking back from when I was a teenager, um, it was always painful. And it was really intense, and I used to throw up as well whenever I'd have my period
Mhm.
as well. I'd
Mhm.
get like really hot and sweaty, and it was so hard to go to school. And
Mhm.
that wasn't obviously easily understood by teachers. Um, so yeah, I just thought, okay, I'm waiting for this to end, and then I have a whole other month coming where it's going to come back again and torture me. So I just feel like growing up, I always had this idea that there's this horrible part of being a woman that we all have to go through. Some people have a better time, and I was like jealous that some friends didn't feel any pain. Um,
Mm.
when I would go to the doctor, they didn't say anything about it. They just said, okay, here, take this, and just give different medication. And then I tried a contraceptive pill because someone recommended that that would suppress your period, the one that you take every 21 days, and then you have a break.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was another way. That was, yeah, including birth control to try to suppress my body's natural cycle. So,
Mhm.
yeah, the medical side was just like, here, take this to suppress everything. And
Mhm.
then I guess everywhere around me, um, my family as well, they also, it was common in my own maternal lineage that periods were painful. So it was just, that's what happens. You get over it, or that's just life.
Mm.
So yeah, it was really
Mhm.
negative, glum way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so many of us, because we don't know, right? We just feel how we feel when you feel that pain, and you're throwing up and you're hugging the toilet and you can't move and you're shaking. It's like, why do I have to go through this? And there seems to be a lot of times not like an alternative that's shared besides medication, which is disconnecting our bodies from ourselves even more. So we just kind of learn to just keep disconnecting, right?
Mm, yeah. And I'm remembering now
Mhm.
that my grandma, so my maternal grandmother, I remember my mum telling me her periods were really bad and she had fibroids. And so that was the main
Mhm.
cause. And then in her later years, she had to get her whole womb removed because that's what they said
Mm.
was the only option for her. And my aunt,
Mm.
so her daughter had painful periods, same story, fibroids. So I thought I had fibroids, but I've gotten checked two different occasions and I don't. But
Mhm.
it's just that idea of the womb, this is something that's causing the problem, let's remove it. And
Mm.
I just want, I think about my grandma, I wonder how that experience was for her because of how that is a whole organ, that's a whole part of you. And yeah, that's a whole lot of internal shifts that happen when that is taken out of you as well. So yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. And there's so many women, even dealing with that today, that they still feel like that's the only option, which is it's crazy. Because it's so sad. But I want to hear about your journey with how this has started. How did you start shifting your perspective around it? What has changed for you?
I think in 2020, actually, when we had the lockdown,
Mhm.
um, I think I used that time to just learn. I just felt like really curious about loads of things that were going on at the time. But I was listening to a different podcast that just mentioned about the pill, the contraceptive pill, and how the person who was taking it had learned that it was actually not helpful and it was actually causing her uterus to, there's like science like backed up on this and how it causes the uterus to age. Um, and I was like, huh? Am I doing this to my body now? So I then got another book and I just got loads of different books and I was just learning and all different books that were about periods and how to work with your cycle instead of against it. And that was so life changing. That's where I learned about eating, the things I eat affecting my periods, but most importantly, the stress that I was taking that I wasn't realizing that I was taking on, um, and how stress looks so different. It can look like doing lots of things, but also I knew for me as like an empath, I was just taking on other people's emotions, and that was storing a lot of energetic stress in my womb, and that was causing a lot of the pain. So yeah, I would say that that year of 2020 was where I just was reading, learning, exploring, and trying to understand as much as I could, and putting things into practice. And I think that's where the big shifts started happening, and it's still happening now. But yeah,
What changes did you notice in your body when you started to apply those things?
I think when, because I know one of the things I started doing was having more nuts and seeds. That's one of the dietary changes they suggested. And
Mhm.
exercise, I felt like I had more energy because I was starting to do
Mm.
these physical changes. Um, I think with the emotional like baggage I was still storing, I wasn't fully aware of how I was still keeping that in. But I started
Mhm.
trying to find creative outlets so I wasn't holding so much energetically. So I started writing like poems, which I still like to do, and that was my creative outlet. And I
Mhm.
noticed like it felt like every time I was writing a poem, I was like purging the emotion. So if I was
Mm.
angry, I was like, okay, I'm going to write a poem about how angry I am, and I would feel the anger as I was writing it out, and that was my way of
Mhm.
releasing. Um,
Mhm.
so I think, yeah, that time period of getting creative with how I was trying to offload the heaviness that my womb was carrying, the thing I noticed most was allowing myself to feel it in my body instead of just storing it away and suppressing it and locking
Mhm.
it down. I think that's the thing I
Mhm.
noticed the most about the energetic side of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love when we actually take time to work with ourselves.
Yeah.
So many women still not there yet, but I think there's a shift that's happening. I
Yeah.
think more women are waking up and they're like, there's got to be something else. So I love that you took those steps for yourself. How are you working with your body now? Like, could you share a couple of practices that you do or how you work with your cycle a little differently now?
Mm. I think now, so 2020 was 5 years ago now. Wow. So now I've
Mhm.
had a child. So my period, I didn't have my period for since getting pregnant to now. It was about 2 years in total. Because I was
Oh,
still
wow.
yeah, so I was still breastfeeding. I still am breastfeeding, but it's reduced massively, but I still, yeah. So my period only came back 3 months ago. So I've only had three periods since having my daughter. So yeah, it's I'm kind of like relearning my cycle again, but I'm working in it in a completely different way. This is where I'm applying spiritual ways of working with it. So I'm talking to my womb, like I'm seeing my womb as almost like a spiritual entity in itself. Like
Mhm.
like she holds so much wisdom. Like there's so many ways that I see the womb as like a portal of creation, allowing us to release so much. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I try to treasure my womb in a very different way now. I'm not perfect with it, but I'm trying to recognize the ways that if I'm feeling angry, like, am I expressing that? Am I releasing it? Um,
Mhm.
the other day, I did a rage ritual, um, which was where like I had an argument with someone and I was like really angry. But I went back to my old pattern of people pleasing and just smiling and saying, it's okay. But then the next morning I was like, no, my womb feels angry. Like I feel angry. I need to get it out. So I just like
Mhm.
played some Beyonce, Lemonade, her whole album, and a couple of her songs, which are very angry. And I just like got some cushions and I was like throwing them. And I was like, and it felt so like liberating. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like times like that, or even if I'm dancing for fun, or I'm just like allowing myself to just like enjoy fun activities, um, I'm feeling it in more on a spiritual level where I feel like I'm using that time to connect with my womb, but also my ancestors as well. Um, so like with dancing, especially, I feel like whenever I'm feeling an emotion intensely, like excitement, joy, or anger, I'm imagining them with me and we're all feeling it together and we're all connected in this because I feel um, with the womb, with like creation, my ancestors are, they're all a part of it. They're all, like, I think I mentioned you to message you some time ago about how when we're in the womb, how we're absorbing like the feelings and emotions from our mother and our grandmother and our great grandmothers. And so I think all of that still sits in our DNA. So I feel everything I feel, they have felt in their lives. So me releasing it, they're able to join me in that release. So yeah, so today it looks like that. Everything feels more, I'm taking it on more deeply and spiritually and trying to include them in the healing so it feels like it's benefiting us all and that makes it feel more powerful.
And that is so true because at one point we were like in our grandmother's womb on our maternal side. So
Yeah.
I don't think we realize how even unconsciously we can take on our ancestors' energy. Like if they felt
Mm,
stress and all of that, I mean, the body's releasing cortisol and stress chemicals in the body that gets into our DNA as well. So that's amazing. I love that for you.
yeah, thank you. No,
That's so good.
yeah, it feels like it's I think I did, and I could talk about this message a lot of like how I feel they didn't always have the safest places to embody their
Mhm.
emotions. So that's why I feel even more like, okay, let's all feel it together. Let's process it and release it together. So yeah.
I think when we add in those rituals and we kind of connect to something deeper in ourselves, that's makes everything more sacred and more intentional. So it makes it easier to understand why we're doing it versus I think I should do it, you know? So it just helps to bridge that deeper connection with yourself. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's more of a motivation that I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for them as well.
Mhm, mhm. Going back to what you said, where it's like, oh, it's weird that women have these cycles or whatever, but everything that is life has a cycle.
Yes.
So even I've even seen like deer, right? And they have like these big antlers, and when they shed, it bleeds and it's shedding off, and it's like it looks very scary almost, but it's shedding because it's growing. And so I think sometimes a lot of people just don't understand just the nature of our design, which is the creators of life. Doesn't mean that you have to like have children if you don't want to, but you can still birth so many things, ideas and projects, and all of that has the same energy of building, putting it out there, letting it shine, and then destroying what didn't work, right? Let's, okay, this served a purpose. We no longer need it. Let's clear it out and let's try again and rebuild for the next time. And
Mm,
so that's what that's doing. That's the energy of our bodies. And so it's like when you take that perspective, it's like, oh, that's not really weird at all. It's very we're designed like we're engineered so intentionally. It's really amazing when you understand that.
mm. And I guess it's because what you said was with the deer shedding the antlers, it can look scary, and how sometimes people see like winter, it's darker, it's people might see that as more
Mhm.
scary, and how the things that we or some people might see as scary, they want to turn away from, like hide it, shame it, run
Mhm.
away from it, demonize it.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it is. And with Western society, and I guess the whole world being so patriarchal, um, and men not bleeding, it makes sense that we've somehow been convinced that this thing that's scary needs to be shamed and locked away or just thrown away, something that should be masked or hidden. So, yeah, I think it comes back to us fearing what we don't understand or being taught to fear what we don't understand and
Mhm.
suppressing everything that's scary or difficult or hard. Yeah.
Mhm. I think tying that with carrying the pain, and then when we don't know how to nourish our bodies throughout the month, we have like our mood changes and our energy changes. So all of it just feels very negative.
Mm,
And so the perception is like, well, not only does it look scary, it feels scary. So
mm,
it's bad, you know? And I dealt with so much, like very severe PMS for a long time. And I just was like, man, I only feel like normal for 1 week out of the month. And I didn't know how to work with myself. And I would feel like at times very on edge. I felt like very dark moods at times as well that were like scary because I felt like I was really struggling, but I didn't know, like it wasn't, maybe I just had a lot of stress going on at that time, but then it would shift. So it wasn't like a permanent thing. And so I just had this feeling of like, just, just, just get through these next few days and it all pass through, but it's like exhausting. So it really wasn't until I became certified in cycle coaching and learned what was really happening and how I was like deficient in a lot of things. I mean, I wasn't handling the stress the way I needed to. I wasn't setting the boundaries that I needed to. I wasn't moving my body the best way. I was trying to operate in a very masculine way without thinking, right? It was masculine, trying to always be on all the time instead of working with my natural rhythm. And once I started doing that, it's like everything just disappeared, right? I'm like, oh, I don't feel crazy. Like out of the month. I feel calm. I feel at ease. Yeah, maybe sometimes I'm a little more sleepy, but I don't feel those dark days like I did before, or the excruciating pain that my body was in, and I'm throwing up and I'm shaking for 2 days and I can't eat anything. Like that, I had no idea that that was telling me that there is an imbalance physically, energetically, and emotionally. I just thought that that was normal. So I love that you're bringing awareness to this. And when you learn, doesn't it fire you up because you see other women with the same struggle and you're like, you don't have to do this. It
Exactly.
doesn't have to be like this. Please, 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 please. We really are such magical creatures, I promise.
I know there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and I think it would change so much if it all started with the education system and it just being normalized to teach all, like, boys and girls, every gender, just from a young age. This is what happens to girls when they hit a certain age. This is what, like, having videos, having like images of what like periods look like, tampons, like all the ways that those things are hidden adds to the layers of shame and, oh, we don't know about that, we don't talk about that. That's where I think the
Mhm.
real change would come in. But yeah, I think whenever I do now meet someone who is struggling, and I'm just like, oh, I want you to love your period, because now I mean, yeah, now I do. I'm excited for my period, and I'm looking to see what are you going to show me about how I've been treating myself for the month. Because one of the books that I read said you should see your period as I can't remember the word it said, but just a way of a review, I guess, of how you've
Yeah.
treated yourself in a month. Because if it's really painful, then that's a sign that you haven't taken care of yourself in some area. Or if it's
Mhm.
really light and easy, then good job. It's kind of like a reward system. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and even when I'm in my period now, and if like I've it's been so much lighter and so much more easier to manage now. I'm doing all this care, but if I'm
Mhm.
on like day 2 of my period and I'm hit with sudden pain, and it's because I'm busying myself with doing loads of house chores, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, all right, you're telling me to rest. I hear you. So it's just, yeah, it's just about me taking that effort of tapping in and listening. And I think that's like the greatest takeaway that I would love to share with the world, of like, this is what periods are for, to like tell you, no, rest, or no, take care of yourself. It just wants to help you. That's all. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know that it's hard to get there for some women, because I've tried to have conversations like that with some of my friends, where I've said, "Oh, the womb and the period is such an exciting time." They're like, "No, I hate my period." I'm like, "Okay, maybe not ready yet," but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that I'm hoping that that time will come. But one thing I was going to say as well is about rest, and how so much changes when we allow ourselves to rest, but how,
Mhm.
yeah, society is still at the moment like hung up on productivity and action and completing tasks, and how, yeah, that's what is tiring our bodies out, and that's what's leading to the pain. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times there's some deeper wounds that are there driving that insatiable need to keep going. It's like we're trying to work our way out of the wound. Um, to just, I think that's what we've learned is like we'll just work through it instead of healing it and working with it. Our bodies truly are so wise, much
Mm,
wiser than our minds. And I think shame is the number one it's like the lowest on the emotional frequency scale. And it's just representative of disconnection. So anytime we're feeling shame, we know that we are disconnecting from ourselves. So if someone's putting that layer of shame on you, there is in a way like projecting that disconnection, or maybe they're looking at life through a lens of disconnection. So I know it is a hard ship to turn, and I tried. I tried, and I was just like, there's so much friction because I know that it's a really big pain point for a lot of women. And sometimes it's just easier to just do the birth control, the medication, and just keep it moving. But I think once we learn how much magic we're designed with, and learning how to tap into those powers throughout the month, you like would never, you don't want that. Like you just don't, because you'll like, why? I don't need to. And I'm far more ahead with where I want to be just by aligning with my body. So I know it takes time, but man, I know I'm just like, oh.
It's like when you're on the other
It's
side of
tough.
it and you can see all of like the glory, and yeah, yeah, it's hard to then see someone on the other side and be like, no, come join me on the
I know.
joy. Um,
I know.
yeah.
They're like, "You're a weirdo."
Oh,
I'm like, "Oh, man. If you could just, I don't know, just do like a free trial, like
yeah.
30-day free trial."
Mm. But
But
something,
I love
sorry,
that.
something you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
about the wound. I think that's where I think we are starting from, or we need to start from, with the people who are still in the idea of periods, gross, disgusting. I think that's where we start from with, okay, there's a wound here, or there's a wound
Mhm,
of if it's a wound of productivity or overworking, let's talk about this. Let's start there. Like, where is that coming from? What does it look like to slow down? What does it look like to rest? Starting with those kind of questions is where I'm trying to start with my own business stuff, with just asking, starting from the baseline, asking people to tap in, become self-aware. Um, what areas of your body are aching? Why do you think that is? Have you ever tried to like talk to your body parts, or like through meditation? Have you ever tried to visualize what's there
mhm,
and what is your body trying to tell you? Um, I think that's the baseline for, I guess, waking people up to getting to the place where they can start to love their body and love their periods or love their womb. But I think it
mhm,
starts from, yeah, just asking people to question the ways they have been overworking or overdoing, because that's where the wound is, and all the shame that lies
mhm.
underneath that, and all the ideas of success looks like this. I have to keep working. I cannot rest. I'm not allowed to rest. Or like, yeah, it starts with, it's like an iceberg of starting with the tip and then seeing underneath what else is there before we can get them
Mhm.
to the other side of periods are magic. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, okay." Yeah, no, I totally agree, and even when you know better, you still have to work with yourself because it's so ingrained. A lot of this is not just mental, but like our nervous system, right? It's like the primitive parts, or the primal parts of ourselves, that can be hard to work with, even
Mm-hmm.
when you know better. So I found myself even doing that this week, and I was like, just push through, and then you can rest, at the end. And I was like, no, I need to recover. Like, it's gonna be okay, you know, but your body's really needing rest, and we're gonna listen to that. Whereas in the past, I probably wouldn't have done that. Probably like, just drink some more caffeine and get through it. But learning that you really put yourself at a disadvantage when you don't rest. And I think we need to start learning the power of rest. That's when you start getting that mental clarity, and the ease starts coming in. Because what happens a lot of times when you start overworking, you end up redoing it anyway. because it doesn't feel aligned with you. And you're like, oh, I don't even like that. And then you just stress your body out for like however long that you're going to end up throwing it in the trash or redoing it. So rest is, it's so valuable in helping us to succeed.
And I find that that's how I can connect so much more greater um, with the universe and spiritual messages. That's how I can
Mhm.
understand things a lot more greater. If I'm in this busyness and this overload, then yeah, all that tense frustration is just building up and exhausting me more. But when I actually slow down, meditate, and even for the people who don't like to meditate, um, something I like because I'm very creative. Like I like just drawing. If I'm just doing something mindlessly, it's scribbling or like painting, just any random thing. That's when I might look at that picture and think, oh wow, I just drew that, and that's telling me that I need to pay attention to this, and whatever it is, like so much more comes out from slowing down. We can actually understand so much
Mhm.
better what our body, what the universe, what our spirit guides are trying to tell us when we actually pause. So there's just so much benefit
Mhm.
from pausing. But yeah, it takes a lot of deprogramming from the idea that resting is lazy, which is what a lot of society
Mhm.
tells us and reminds us. And
Yeah, and I think until you prove it to yourself, you're gonna keep running into those habits, and burning yourself out because you don't know anything different. And so I know that, but I learned it the hard way.
mm,
Yeah, I had completely depleted my body in ways I had no idea could be possible. And so that's why I've created this space now that I've learned how to come out of that and still always working through it. But I'm like, okay, now women need to be able to know how to work with their bodies in states of survival,
mm.
which most of us are
I just remembered something else along with rest and just slowing down, like the emotional release that comes from crying. I just got like a memory of when I was a teenager and or even my early 20s as well, and I was having those really bad periods, and yeah, my mood swings and I would feel grumpy and I just had this overwhelming urge to cry. But even if I wasn't like I didn't have a reason to cry, I would like watch sad movies or watch sad clips and cry, and I would notice that when I would cry then my pains would reduce, and I think that just says
right.
everything and how much I was storing. And even if I wasn't consciously aware of the reasons that I was sad or holding on to sadness, like my body knew, okay, you need to really release some pain and
Hmm.
suffering here. And crying is a great release. That's like a literal way that the energy is moving out of you. And that's another thing that I think, um, again, with society, so many times people say, "Oh, don't cry," or "It's fine," um, or so much of the habit that I still have, or so many of us have, when we're crying in front of someone and saying, "Sorry, sorry." Like, why are we apologizing? Like, there's so much
Hmm.
stigma about crying and how shameful it is and how weak it is or whatever it is, but how healing that is as well, and how like babies know it. Like when my daughter cries, like that they know it from when they're born. That's the thing they do to show you, oh, I'm hungry or I need something. But yeah, that's another thing that society has convinced us is wrong. But yeah, it's so healing and again connected to the womb and yeah, another way of releasing the stored up tension that is there.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. We already have our healing system in us, but our mind and our conditioning and all the things that we're taught tells us to not do those things
Mm,
or feel awkward about those things. Um, and I think we forget that we are still animals and we're not plants. So it's got to be one of the two. But yes, we do have a very high level of intelligence and we could do other things and we have, high brain capacity, but our bodies still are very much animals. And animals have that nervous system where they do those coping mechanisms where they may shake, or they may freeze, or they may do different things in times of those high stress. And then once the danger passes, they're good. Like they go on about their day, and they don't accumulate all of that and create a lot of illnesses and, you know, cancers and things of that nature that build up in the body the way we do, because we're holding so much in, because we're not working with our system. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that about crying, because it has so much power in just releasing so much feel good chemistry in our body, just by releasing, because we hold a lot, and some of us have held stuff in for years that we don't even want to acknowledge.
Mm. And I remember reading a book. I need to find out the title of it, but I know the author is Maladome Some. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I can't remember where in
Okay.
Africa he's from, but in the book he talks about how traditionally there's like a grief circle or crying circle where they would gather as a community, gather in a circle, and they would
Mhm.
all just have the chance to just be together and cry together and just witness each other crying. And they could cry for hours, but it was all very socially acceptable. It was all encouraged. And I don't know how often they had held this, but it was regular. Um, yeah, and it just shows again about how the power of community, if we're able to normalize, get to the point where we can normalize this natural way our body knows how to heal. But if we do it together, it can be even more empowering because we're witnessing each other's healing as well. And there's something powerful in I can see you're in pain and I'm here to stand with you. There's something so powerful in that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just thought about that, and that's how that was another an African based tradition, and how there's so many traditions that have been lost, but they were just so in tune with what our bodies needed.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's
Yeah, I need to
so
find the name.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know, 'cause I'll definitely be looking into that.
Mm.
When it comes to working with your cycle, how do you work with yourself throughout the rest of the month?
Mm. Well, I feel like I've become more in tune to know roughly where I am. So I
Mhm.
have my app, so I have the app Flow, which tells me and suggests the next period is going to be here. But it's been completely wrong lately. So I've been trying
Yeah.
to tap in and figure out, okay, where am I now? So the times where I feel really energized or I have lots of creative like ideas, I'm
Mhm.
assuming I'm in my follicular or ovulation stage. Um,
Mhm.
and so I try and just work in that flow. I'm like, okay, this is the stage where my body has the most energy and it feels most like, yeah, excited, alive. And so, yeah, I try to use that time to tap into, to actually, okay, I can be productive in this time, or I can be creative and flexible, or I can use this time to tap into, I think, like pleasure as well, because I notice my body is more sensitive. I feel more like physically more sensitive. Like
Mhm.
I don't know how to describe. Like I can feel tingles in my womb. Like I don't know whether it's like an egg
Mhm.
is dropping or whatever. But I can feel like I don't know how to describe it, but you know, like a guitar string being plucked. It
Yeah.
sounds so random. It feels I can get that kind of
Yep.
sensation.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
I get that, and I think okay, that's around like yeah, follicular ovulation. Um,
Mhm.
so I try to work with that, and I try to tune in and just I try to indulge in pleasure in that time because I know I feel I'm more receptive. So that means like in
Mhm.
terms of my essential oils, like I love using them, but I try to just soak that in more.
Mhm.
When I'm eating, I try to be mindful there. This is all things I'm trying to do. I'm not doing perfectly all the time, but I'm
Of course.
trying. And then when I'm in my luteal phase, and I know, okay, I can physically feel more tired, and my energy is going
Mhm.
down. So I try my best
Mhm.
to do less. Like if I've got my schedule, I try to like cancel or move things around so I'm not like exhausting myself. And then on my
Sure.
time of bleeding, then I'm really trying to slow down more. I try to be in nature even more because
Mhm.
I feel more like spiritually aligned in that time. Like I feel like that's a time where you can be more connected with your intuition. So I try to be more in nature, like meditating on the grass or just go to the local park more often.
Mhm.
And I try my best to rest as much as possible and just, yeah, again, do less. And in the witchy side of things, I've been curious about what they call blood magic. So, like using your menstrual blood to use it in ritual. So, I've used it like once, and I find it quite hard to be able to use it because I wear sanitary pads and I don't use a moon cup, where that's probably easier to do this. But when I can, collect a bit of the blood and put it onto like a candle, and then I say like a spell or an affirmation that I'm trying to manifest. The blood is supposed to be really powerful and like magnify your manifestations even more. So that's what I've been trying to do to work with my period, seeing it as sacred and yeah, and magic, because I know the womb holds so much power. And yeah, so that those are the ways that I've been working more intentionally with each phase. Um, and also the moon as well. And the moon is tied a lot with the womb and your cycle. So if I happen to be bleeding around the new moon, then I definitely try to be like asking the moon to help strengthen my manifestations or whatever it is. Same with the full moon. Try to work with it and connect it with everything.
It is very, very powerful. They've actually done so many studies in how it's healed people with like stem cell research. And I think we're just so much more valuable and powerful than we realize and give ourselves credit for.
Mm,
But I think it starts with helping ourselves heal. So I love that you are finding ways to be in tune with yourself and being intentional about what you do.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And it's so different from how I used to view that time, where I used to fear and dread it and be like, oh, not again. Whereas now I'm like, no, let me learn what my body has to offer me. Let me work with it.
Yeah, and I love it as like a blank slate, kind of energy. I'm like, "Oh, yes. I get to start all over again." Like, "Okay, this didn't work or this worked, so I'm gonna start fresh for the
Yeah.
next month." So, well, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Mm.
Tell us more about how we can, like, listen to what you have to share in your podcast and all of that good stuff.
So I had started off with focusing a lot on my Instagram, which you can
Mhm.
find me at Divine Presence, because that is my title on social media platforms. Um,
Okay.
but YouTube is where I'm focusing more on, because I feel like I can get a wider reach there. And I just
Mhm.
use those spaces and the podcast as well to just relay what I think like my ancestors need to be passing on through me, or certain things I'm going through in life that I think, okay, I'm learning this now. I want to share that with the world and open up discussions and having conversations with other people like you on these platforms, just so we can just show the world that these conversations are possible. This way of understanding ourselves is possible. So, yeah, I'm using different platforms to try to just join in this awakening of challenging the way we've been taught to see our bodies, see ourselves, and trying to shake things up and say, no, we can do things differently. We can be this way. And I'm starting there. And then when I collect more of like a audience, then I would love to work with people one on one and do spiritual readings. And I'm practicing like mediumship and all these other witchy stuff. So yeah, that's open as well.
Okay, great. Well, I'll definitely leave links down below for anybody that is interested and wants to connect deeper with Francesca. And is there anything else that you want to share with us today as far as womb healing and connecting deeper?
Um, I guess I just want to end with that no matter where anyone is on their journey of just understanding themselves, that a bit like you said, there's no space for us to be like, oh, I've already neglected my body so much, there's no hope. Like any day is a chance to reset and to start again and to reconnect with our body. And
Mhm.
our inner child always is waiting for us to just turn our attention back to them. So there's no too late a time to start listening to ourselves again. So yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Wow, I love this conversation. I love getting to get to know you more and your story today, Francesca. I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective and your journey as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.